Welcome to another episode of the Meal Prep Monday podcast. I'm your host and founder of Prep Dish, Allison Schaaf. In today's episode, I am discussing I guess you could say, life motto that I have, which is a place for everything and everything in its place. It's a bit of a mini series that I'm kicking off, which I'll talk about as we get into the episode. Before we do, though, I have an email to read from Prep Dish subscriber Emily. Emily writes, I have been using Prep Dish for years, and as a working mom, it allows me to put healthy meals on the table. If it wasn't for Prep Dish, we would be eating the same things week after week. It also saves money because we don't eat out as much. Emily, thank you so much for sharing and for being a long-term subscriber to Prep Dish. I love that we've helped you for multiple years getting healthy, tasty food on the table. If you are hearing this and have been wanting to try our meal plans, now is a great time. We have a 14-day free trial at prepdish.com/MPM, short for Meal Prep Monday. I, over the last few weeks, did a little update to that landing page. So if you're listening to this kind of real time, January 2025, even if you've been to that landing page, I added some video testimonials from a few of our customers. You can also see those on our YouTube channel if you're curious or you're wanting to hear more from people that are actually using the meal plans. Those have been a nice little add-on that I'm really excited about. So if you want to take a peek, we do have a Prep Dish YouTube channel. Now, most of the videos, so some of our podcasts, especially the interviews, are on video on YouTube. The rest of the content, great content up there that was recorded. I was thinking about this. I think it was the year that Ivan was born. So that would have been like 5 years ago. I did basically a video a week for a whole year. So anyway, I'm getting a little off track. So let's go ahead and get into today's content. So I am kicking off a mini series on cleaning and tidying up. Really, this is because I have an interview next week, which I'm really excited to share with you guys. It is Katie Wells, and her content is all related to decluttering, which for any of you that have listened to this podcast for any length of time, I'm sure you can guess that I'm a big fan of decluttering and keeping things tidy, both in the kitchen and the rest of the house. So her episode is going to air next week. This week, I'm going to do a little intro on some thoughts on keeping things tidy. And then the week after, I'm going to follow up just to kind of wrap up. It'll be like a 3-part series on keeping things tidy. So last year in our family, we adopted and were out of state. It was snowy. It was cold. We were in an Airbnb, actually multiple Airbnbs, making at least 1 or 2 trips a day to either Walmart or Whole Foods to get baby supplies or food or supplies for the cold that we weren't used to. It was a hectic holiday season. And this year we have stayed put, and it's been so lovely to be at home, to have, mostly the kids are sleeping through the night, including the baby. So just such a different experience from last year. I mean, I wouldn't change last year for the world, but I was just able to appreciate being home and having the holidays be a lot more calm this year. I was able to think through kind of some work projects and things for Prep Dish, but also just in our house, kind of work through some decluttering and tidying. And so thought it would be a good topic to dive into for the first few episodes of the year here on Meal Prep Monday. So a place for everything in its place. This is I had to laugh at this when this came to my mind. So when me and my husband met, this was actually probably when we were engaged. We were talking through having some agreements before we got married. And the only 2, I would have to ask for sure, but the only 2 I remember really fully committing to, one was a place for everything and everything in its place. And I would say that's a value we both still hold to this day. And the second agreement that was that neither of us would join Scientology. We were, I guess, during that time, we'd done a road trip to Kansas to visit my family and listened to one of the books. I think I'd read a few different books on Scientology and kind of gotten just very intrigued by it. But that was our second agreement. And then we were going to come up with a whole list of agreements, and we made it to those 2. But I think those are both great agreements. I'm sure we could have come up with others, but at least the ones we settled on, we still hold true today. So a place for everything in its place. I was just going to walk through and have this be kind of more of a thinking through, like, where in your household is this something that you like uphold? And as I go through and clean and tidy different spaces in my house, I'm thinking about this, right? So I'll go through kind of 5 different areas and how I think about this in each area of the house. So, number one, in the kitchen, 100% a place for everything, everything in its place. So I know, spatulas, spoons, all of that. The big thing here is I have like drawer dividers. So all of the spatulas are together, all of the spoons, meat. I don't know what that meat chopper thing is, but the thing that helps chop ground meat has its own specific spot. So everything in my kitchen has a very specific spot. There's nothing random about any of it. And that is one of the things that helps keep my time in the kitchen really efficient and also enjoyable, because I'm not running around trying to find things. One thing I did just redo over the past few months was my spice cabinet. I do alphabetize my spice cabinet, but over time, I find that, I get random boxes. I do transfer them to, the glass jars that are labeled, but over time I get blends and this and that. And so kind of every year and a half, I do have to go through and kind of like take everything out and redo it. So that was one that I just redid. But yeah, in general, the kitchen is one where there may be other places in the house where it kind of falls short, but the kitchen for me is a place where I like to make sure everything has a place, and using labels can be helpful depending on, who's in and out of there and what sort of things you're needing to organize. The number 2 place, and I think this is the trickiest, and that is kids' toys. So leading up to Christmas, we did a big kind of sweep of going through, trying to make some room. And then that week after Christmas, because we were home and we do have, the au pair that's here. And so between the two of us, we really worked to donate some toys they no longer play with and find the space for those new ones. And I have tried to be really intentional about this during the holidays, but also birthday time. So if I know there's a birthday coming up, leading up to the birthday, I'm already trying to see if there's anything that we can purge or weed out that maybe they're not using, just so that we can make room for anything new that's coming in, just to kind of stay on top of that. And with the kids' toys, that is where I do use a label maker and find that this is really helpful. So that way, whoever is in the house, if we have a babysitter or something like that, it's just everything is very clearly labeled and very clearly kind of has a spot and a place to go. The third one, a place for everything in its place, is bathroom. This one, I do feel like over time, I kind of have to go in and just, again, kind of do a weed out of making sure everything's there, going through and, consolidating for whatever reason So I use Dime Beauty for a lot of my facial care. And I guess I had the eye cream on, auto ship for I don't know what it was. And I thought it was 90 days, but for whatever reason, I went through and I counted and I have like 4 of those. So I think I have enough eye creams to last me through the rest of the year. So I canceled that subscription and everything else was fine. But I did have, for whatever reason, a backlog of those. And then 4th area is clothing. And this I found really helpful, just, having things organized by type of clothing. I think I did an episode on this maybe last year. I have really tried to pare down the clothes that I own and that I wear, and am a lot more minimal than I used to be. I still am doing the Rent the Runway. I can put a link in the show notes, a link to the last episode I did on this. For me, it works really well because I get a few new outfits each month to kind of wear and cycle through for events and such, and then kind of move on. And it just really decreases the amount of clothing that I'm purchasing. It's kind of like a few basics like organic cotton tank tops, or maybe a few workout pants. But other than that, this year I bought a new pair of jeans that are a little more updated. But yeah, it's pretty minimal, the clothing that I'm buying throughout the year. And I actually find I'm still kind of getting rid of more clothes than I am buying, just to really pare down to the necessities and what I really am wearing, and having it all be really kind of intentional and thoughtful. Number 5 is office. Definitely important here to have a place for everything so it's easier to find. And when I get into work, I can kind of start right away. And yeah, that one's kind of, I think, straightforward. So I know I said I was going to do 5. I'm going to do a 6th bonus one, and that is car. And this is something me and my husband have both kind of worked on, to have a few things that stay in the car at all times. So that way, yes, we have a diaper bag in and out, but things like a pack of baby wipes, making sure a pair of glasses. So I'm not great at this. And the good news is me and my husband both have glasses we wear to drive, and the prescription's not that different. So if I don't have a pair of mine in there, I can always use his in a pinch. But even things like I like to have a pair of nail clippers and a nail file, just in case I snag a nail. It's there in the car. So there's a few things like that, and Band-Aids. So we kind of have this essentials kit in each car. So that way we're not always having to add and take out and things like that. So that's a little bonus area to think about in terms of place for everything, and everything in its place. Okay, that is all I have for today's episode. Again, next week is that interview. I think you guys are really going to like it. I am really excited about her content. And I was actually on Katie's podcast. It did end up airing before this interview, so you can go back. I'll try and add that to the show notes as well, if you want to listen to the episode I did on her podcast. And a reminder, if you do want to try out the meal plans, that 2-week free trial is prepdish.com/MPM, short for Meal Prep Monday. And that's all I have for this week. I will be back again next Monday with another episode.